When 18-year-old Nolan Wells went to Horn Island with his friends, he never came back alive. And for 16 days, local authorities gave his family nothing but stone walls and silence, rushing to label his death an accidental drowning, while his friends wiped their phones clean. But today, at a funeral that shook the entire nation, a grieving mother stood up, a $100,000 reward was dropped on the table, and the raw truth was exposed. This isn't just an unsolved tragedy. This is America's two-tiered justice system in plain sight, and they can no longer bury what happened to Nolan Wells. 18-year-old Nolan Xavier Wells, a young man who should still have books in his hands, whose face should still be shining with the bright promise of tomorrow, and who was a stellar wide receiver for the Southwest Mississippi Community College football team. But what happened on the 4th of July at Horn Island? He went to the water with his friends, but he returned only as a lifeless body. Imagine the agony of a mother, Christine Wansley, and the heartbreak of a father, Elmo Wells, when their boy didn't come home, and they were forced to live for 16 agonizing days in a living hell, completely in the dark about what happened to their piece of their soul. That 16 days of crushing silence, total helplessness, and suffocating pain is enough to break any living human heart. Today, it wasn't just Nolan Wells being laid to rest. It was the burial of the truth itself, hidden away from public view. The question isn't just where he went. The question is, who does the two-tiered justice system actually work for? And how long will mothers' wombs continue to be unnecessarily shattered? Whenever a tragedy like this strikes, the first and foremost question is why the blindfolds are placed so tightly over the eyes of the law and justice. Today, we are going to dive deep into this entire story, seeing how a single death shook America to its core, and how a new fight for the truth has begun amid this profound grief. Let's look at the raw facts and uncover what was attempted to be swept under the rug. Nolan Wells, affectionately nicknamed Mr. Cool Hands by his friends and younger siblings because whenever he was on the football field, he caught every pass like magic, had gone to Horn Island in Mississippi for the 4th of July holiday with 3 of his friends. Imagine a young man living through some of the brightest days of his youth, suddenly vanishing. All his friends returned, but Nolan did not come back alive. And that is when a period began that the family aptly calls 16 days of hell. For 16 long days, the family was kept in the dark. Without conducting a thorough, deep, and neutral investigation, the police quickly tried to brush it aside by calling it an accidental drowning. But how could a mother's heart or a father's conscience ever accept that? When Nolan's phone and keys were finally recovered 2 days later, a massive amount of data was found wiped clean. When the friends who were with him were interviewed, their statements flat out contradicted each other. Stories shifted, accounts changed, and above all, local authorities met the family with a wall of stonewalling that instantly raised red flags for anyone paying attention. Can every single tragedy like this simply be dismissed by pointing to riptides and dangerous currents in the ocean? Absolutely not. This is the exact same pain that every black family on the soil of Mississippi has known for generations, where the moment you try to raise your voice, an immediate effort is made to silence it. And then came the day that no parents should ever have to witness. Center Point Church in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. That was where Nolan's funeral and celebration of life were held. Thousands of people gathered there. Blue flowers, Nolan's favorite color and a part of his school uniform, were draped everywhere. The atmosphere inside was heavy, surreal, and utterly heartbreaking. On one side, the soulful voices of a gospel choir sang "I'll Trust in God, My Savior," as people wept and prayed, while on the other side sat parents who had just lost their 18-year-old son forever. Yet, the most astonishing and powerful part of this funeral was that the parents did not stay silent. Usually, in moments like this, grieving families sit quietly on the sidelines, but here, Christine and Elmo Wells took the stage themselves and stepped up to the microphone to share their son's story with the world. With tear-filled eyes and a striking spiritual strength, Christine said, "Thank God for blessing us with 18 years of Nolan. He had such a gentle, calming spirit, a way of making everyone feel seen and valued, and he taught us what pure love looks like." And when his father, Elmo, took the mic, he shared how Nolan used to train with him at the gym, run drills in the sand on the beach, and act as a pillar of motivation for his younger brothers. He spoke about how he taught his son the values of character, self-discipline, and perseverance, and how Nolan embodied every bit of it. Yet, today, that same father was lowering his son's casket into the earth. It was a sight that could reduce even the hardest of hearts to tears. When you look closely at this entire service, 2 major aspects stand out. One side was a celebration of Nolan's life, and the other was an open, fearless battle for justice. When renowned civil rights leader Reverend Al Sharpton stepped up to the pulpit, he spoke about history. He reminded the crowd of Mississippi's past and how desperately courage is needed today. Using a vivid metaphor of turning on the lights in a dark kitchen to make the roaches scatter, he declared, "I didn't come to Mississippi to cause trouble. I came to cut the lights on so whatever is hiding in the dark can be seen." That message became even more critical when it was revealed that hateful individuals had sent threatening messages to the family, baselessly accusing them of trying to profit off the tragedy. Addressing this vile smear head-on, Reverend Al Sharpton grabbed the microphone and made an announcement that cemented itself in history. "I didn't come to make money, I came to give money." The National Action Network immediately put up a $50,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest and conviction. And just like that, media mogul Tyler Perry called in, matching the amount and adding another $50,000. That bumped the total reward fund to a massive $100,000. It was absolute proof that when local authorities and systems try to bury the truth, people of conscience from all over the world step up to ensure that the truth of Nolan Wells' death cannot be brushed under the rug. Now, the biggest and most bitter question is, why does all of this feel so deeply wrong? Why is it that every time a suspicious death like this happens, ordinary people walk away with the sinking realization that the law does not work equally for everyone? This is the very embodiment of the two-tiered justice system, whose naked reality is now on display for the whole world to see. Just think, if the roles had been reversed, if a white teenager had turned up dead under these exact mysterious circumstances, and his friend's stories didn't match up, would the FBI and local police response have looked anything like what happened in Nolan's case? Would the investigation have moved at this snail's pace? Would they have instantly closed the book by calling it an accidental drowning? Not a chance. The evasive behavior of the friends, their sudden silence, wiping their social media accounts clean, and claiming they know nothing, does that pass the common sense test for any ordinary person? As long as the eyes of the law in this country and this world open or close based on skin color, race, and status, every black parent's heart will keep beating in fear, wondering if their child will make it home safe. Another bitter truth is that the mainstream media failed to give this case the coverage and attention it rightfully deserved. As Joy Reid and Ashley Etienne pointed out in their discussion, if the circumstances had been different, if the background had been different, this story would have dominated 24/7 national news headlines for weeks. But because it was the story of a black teenager, an active attempt was made to marginalize it, to push it to the sidelines, and to look away. Fortunately, in today's digital age, independent media and streaming platforms carry the power to ensure voices cannot be snuffed out. Whether it's the Don Lemon Show or other independent creators and analysts, they kept this story alive, talked about it daily, and reminded the entire nation that Nolan's life mattered. If independent media hadn't shined a light on this, mainstream silence would have successfully buried yet another tragedy deep in the dirt. When we listen to Charles Coleman, Clay Kane, and the other speakers, a heavy weight settles in the chest. It's that sinking feeling that lives inside everyone who understands the reality of the world we're living in. Is this the first time? Absolutely not. From Trayvon Martin to Michael Brown, from Breonna Taylor to Nolan Wells, it is a long and painful continuum that shows no signs of stopping. But that does not mean we should sit down in despair or choose silence. As Ben Crump put it clearly and powerfully, Nolan Wells wasn't just Christine and Elmo's son, he was all of our sons. Because if this fire can burn at their front door today, it can show up at anyone's doorstep tomorrow. That is why this fight isn't just about Nolan. It's a fight for every child breathing air in this society. It's a fight against a system that prioritizes bias over basic human dignity. As the funeral came to an end and people walked back to their homes, one thing had become completely clear: Nolan Wells' death will not be in vain. The extraordinary strength of his parents, their resilience, and the unwavering support from people of conscience across the globe stand as a testament that the truth cannot be buried forever in the earth. If you can feel this pain, if you believe that every mother deserves to know the truth about what happened to her child, please share this video with your friends and loved ones. Amplify this voice so loudly that it reaches the ears of those who are still choosing to stay silent. Because no matter how deep the darkness gets, as long as even one bright, awake heart remains, the lights will be turned on, and the truth will come bursting out into the open. May Nolan Wells rest in eternal peace, and may his family be granted the strength and endurance to bear this immense grief. Take good care of yourselves, always stand on the side of the truth, and never forget that Nolan's life mattered. Goodbye.